Sir, there's another starship coming in. It's the Enterprise.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
You get good views of the stern and starboard side of HMS Warrior. Warrior was built in 1859, commissioned in 1860. First of our ironclad battleships. She was built out of 18-inch thick Burma teak that after they bolted 4.5-inch iron plates to. I'm not sure if you know, but the Warrior is actually licensed for civil ceremonies, which means if you wish, you can get married at the stern there in the captain's cabin. As part of this deal, you can change the code flags that fly through the middle rigging, putting up a message for the whole harbour to read. Quite often we see messages such as well done, good luck, congratulations. Only a few weeks ago we saw don't do it. I'd like to give you all a very warm welcome into Her Majesty's Naval Base Portsmouth. Otherwise known as HMS Nelson, it's 3.5 miles of continuous quay. It's operated by the Royal Navy. That red brick building with the white window frames, that's home to QHM, the Queen's Harbour Master. That's the semaphore tower. Now the Queen's Harbour Master has total control of every vessel's movement in and around the port. That's from all the small leisure boats, the warships, the cross-channel ferries. We even had to get permission to start this harbour tour. He keeps control in several ways. First of all, he has 6 radars. He also has over 3,000 CCTV cameras around the harbour, so you are being filmed at the moment, I hope you don't mind. He also has VHF radio, telephone and several Ministry of Defence police launches at his disposal. Now it's located on South Railway Jetty, because of course that blue fronted building there is the old ticket office, and in behind the old trains platform. You'll also be able to see in the background HMS Victory, because of course we are about to pass Victory Jetty. Now I'm not sure if you can realise, but Victory's had her topmast removed. That's as part of a 25-year project to restore her rotting timbers. She does however still fly a Wight ensign. That's because she has her very own captain and crew. In fact, she's the oldest commissioned warship anywhere in the world. Now, so ahead of us, and just on the right hand side, you'll see in a second the ship that you've all come here to see today. There is HMS Queen Elizabeth alongside her brand new berth, the Princess Royal Jetty. Now the Queen Elizabeth, well, I actually started designing these ships in 1999, so that's almost 20 years ago now. She was actually ordered in 2007, she was named in 2014, and she started her sea trials in June of this year. She's estimated to be formally commissioned at the end of 2017, December this year. That's because at the moment she's technically a civilian ship. She's not a warship, she's not owned by the Navy yet, she's still owned by the contractors BAE Systems. That's why she flies that blue flag at the back. And you see we fly a red one, that's because we're a civilian ship. Now the blue one is a government ship that's not military, if that makes sense. And then a white one is what Royal Navy ships fly. She can't actually fly a white ensign because she's not yet been commissioned. She has no commission. So technically it's just called the Queen Elizabeth. And she's the biggest warship the Royal Navy has ever had. She weighs in at 70,000 tonnes. Our old warships, our old carriers, that's the Invincible, Ark Royal and Illustrious, well, they weigh 22,000 tonnes, so it's about 3 times the size. She's 280 metres long from end to end. Now, for even Usain Bolt, the world's fastest runner, it would take him 30 seconds to run the entire length at full pelt. Now, the flight deck at the top, well, they could fit 470 buses on the flight deck alone. However, that space is going to be reserved for the 40 F-35B Lightning II jets. It's going to be 40 of them, as I said. They will cost £100 billion each. Now, the beam of the ship, that's left to right, that's the width. That's 40 metres. Or if you go to the top deck from left to right, on the flight deck, that's 70 metres. In fact, the overhang is so large that in between the ship and the quay wall there is these big spaces. They're about 10 metres wide, and they're purposely to hold the ship away from the quay wall, so when the tide goes out, they don't want the flight deck to hit on top of the wall. She has a price tag of about £3.1 billion. Should last around 50 years. So she estimated decommissioning of 2067. That means the last captain is likely to not have even been born yet, and there'll be crew members whose parents aren't even born yet. Now, she has a minimum crew. When she's got no aircraft on, she can have a crew of 679. However, she can have a maximum of 1,600 when she's fully embarked. That's because she's got 470 cabins that can accommodate 1,600 people.
That's except those certain aircraft that have built-in cabins, which are going to be rare adding on these, but oh well. Come on, just a camera.
Now, the ship will carry enough food for about 45 days, so a typical deployment would sail with over 65,000 sausages, 30,000 rushes of bacon, 65,000 eggs, and 12,000 tins of baked beans. So I don't think there's any shortage for tomorrow's breakfast. You'll see at the front there, the ramp, that's officially its real name, is the ski jump. It's a British invention that was designed as part of our Invincible class carriers. This was designed for the Harrier jump jets to have an easier takeoff with such a heavy payload of arms. You'll also see it's got 2 control towers there. They call them islands. It's the only carriers in the world that have 2 islands. Now, the one at the front is the bridge, and that's obviously where they drive the ship from, do all the navigating. And the one at the back is what they call flyco. That's flight control. It's a bit like air traffic control in an airport. When you think they can have anywhere up to 70 or 80 aircraft, a mixture of planes and helicopters, it's got its own dedicated control tower. And we'll talk a bit more about the Elizabeth later on. For those of you on the left-hand side, don't worry, because we will turn round later, and you'll get good views from the left-hand side in just a few minutes' time. Now, we're just round in the north corner. The north corner gets its name because this is as far north as the harbour used to extend to. We had thousands of Napoleonic prisoners of war, and we made them dig out all the harbour you see here today. Over to the posts on the left, ahead to the international port, and over to the quay walls on the right, including all the lock stocks and the lagoon. In fact, they always said that more mud and dirt was dug out of Portsmouth by hand than the entire workings, both ends and including the cross-channel tunnel, that was dug out using machinery.
Yeah, I was raking. I'm still going to keep filming.
At D34 here, this is HMS Diamond, one of our daring class Type 45 destroyers. We have 6 of these in the fleet, and they come in at a cost of £1 billion each to build.
Wow.
Might sound expensive, but for £1 billion you do get some of the most advanced warships anywhere in the world. Now, they incorporate what we call stealth technology. That's all the funny angles on the ship. They bounce off enemy radar waves in different directions, allowing the ship to appear up to 1/3 of its actual size. And the ship was designed for air defence. So if you look at the top, that big ball with the 4 spikes on it, that's the Samson multifunctional radar. It's a very highly powerful missile tracking system.
What's that yellow?
It's still working.
Now that missile tracking system can track up to 1,000 objects the size of a cricket ball, different speeds up to Mach 3 times the speed of sound. Now it can then prioritise these targets and choose which system is most suitable to obliterate it.
Wonder which dock used to be HMS Ark-Ross one. Be very interesting to find out.
Now you can see the ship inside here. This is HMS Dragon. That'll appear in a second because there is actually a big red dragon on the front. Now this ship actually has the freedom of the city of Cardiff. She went up to Wales to collect this award. They had these big red dragons stuck on the side. Now they received such good reviews that the officers and crew decided they were going to write to Her Majesty the Queen, asking if they could keep the dragons. Now the University of Cardiff agreed to sponsor them. So the Queen said, well, if it doesn't cost me a penny, I don't see why not. You can keep the dragon. And now, she's the only warship in the Navy that's not entirely in tulip grey. Now, Dragon here, if you look at the weapon systems on board, first of all, that big gun at the front, that's the Vickers Mark 8 4.5-inch naval cannon. May not look very impressive, but it can aim, load and fire a 22-kilogram shell all by itself, completely obliterating a target up to 40 miles away. Put it into perspective, the Dragon here, she can swing her barrels round towards Southampton, completely obliterating any target in the city. For the sake of the argument, we could say Southampton Football Club. Now moving back there, the big grey box, that's the Sea Viper missile system, home to 48 Aster 15 and Aster 30 missiles, costing £1 million each. In the middle of the ship is a Wight pill box. There's one either side of the funnel. That's a Vulcan Phalanx close-in weapon system. Basically it's a radar-guided Gatling gun that can fire 53 bullets a second to make a wall of steel around the ship. Then at the stern, of course, we have the flight deck, old Sea Lynx or Sea helicopter. The F-83 here is HMS St Albans, one of our Duke-class Type 23 frigates. 13 of these in the fleet, built during the 80s for anti-submarine warfare.
Oh, the dragons.
Now these were built just after the Falklands War, when a lot was learned about fire prevention. You see the ship is split up into 3 distinct sections. These gaps were then known as fire breaks. The theory being if enemy fire was to hit any one part of the ship, you could completely seal it top to bottom and allow the rest of the ship to carry out its duties. Now the St Albans actually has a story to tell. She was sat here when she was brand new, hadn't even been decommissioned yet. That was when a cross-channel ferry called the Pride of Bilbao came in. Now, what they do, the cross-channel ferries, they swing round and they reverse, they go backwards onto these berths ahead of us. Now, I don't know what happened that day, but the captain got his calculations slightly wrong and the cross-channel ferry smashed into the St Albans. It caused so much damage they had to delay the commissioning for 6 weeks of repairs. In comparison, the ferry was back in service in 2 days. And 239 is the Richmond, another one of our frigates. And if you look at the back of the Richmond, you'll see a weird-looking ship with a helipad on top. That's the former RFA Diligence. Built in 1981 as a cross-channel freight ferry known as the Stena Inspector. She was requisitioned as part of the Falklands campaign, which returned as the forward repair ship that you see here today. She travelled the oceans of the world, acting as an AA ship for our Royal Navy. She had all sorts of spare parts and she could fabricate anything needed. She was part of the RFA, the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, which basically meant although the ship was owned by the Navy, it was manned by merchant seafarers. She's now been decommissioned, waiting for her fate to be decided, but she'll more than likely be sold to a foreign navy. Now at the top of the basin there, you'll see the brown and green sheds of the MMD. That's the main marketing distribution. So here that Portsmouth becomes the second busiest importer of fresh fruit in the UK, second only to Dover. Most importantly though, we import roughly 70% of all of the UK's bananas. Every 3 days, A ship will come in here, like the Harmonia Emden, and unload anywhere up to 49 million of them. They're taken into the sheds where they're ripened, fumigated and sent off to the main distributors. Although it may not look like it, we're actually the second busiest cross-channel ferry port in the UK, second only to Dover. On a busy day you can see up to 12 cross-channel ferry movements. Now Brittany ferries operate to France and Spain, Condor ferries operate to the Channel Islands. Now HMS Bristol here, D23. She was the only Bristol class type 82 destroyer they ever built. She was built during the 80s for anti-submarine... She did have 3 sister ships on the drawing board, however they were scrapped on paper as part of a defence review in the 60s. She did see active service in the Falklands War, where she was escort destroyer to our aircraft carriers. She was also the Hong Kong guard ship for a little while. She's now permanently moored at Whale Island. She had all her engines and weapon systems long removed. In their places, a small cinema, more sleeping accommodation and classrooms. She's a static training and accommodation ship for the hundreds of sea cadets who pass through there every year. These sea cadets, they have a very good time at Whale Island. They take them on the water here. You can see some ahead of us. They teach them how to sail. They teach them how to row. And they even teach them how to drive a powerboat. Once they've achieved all this, they take them back to shore and teach them how to swim. Now Whale Island is all that mud and dirt, dug out of those prisoners of war, dumped there to form the island you see today. Officially known as HMS Excellent, is home to the 2nd Sea Lord and is operational headquarters of our Royal Navy.
Long way away. It's that blurry thing. So it's too far away to actually get. Yeah. I don't think it's got an accurate focus.
And straight over the other side of the harbour you'll see a big white chalk pit. Just up and to the right is what looks like a Type 45 destroyer. So where it's not a navigational error, in fact that's DARA, the Defence Development and Research Agency. When they were designing the Type 45 destroyers, they put a Samson radar on the top. They flew high-speed jets at low level over the English Channel to see where they could pick them up. In fact, found they could be a plane with 1 metre on the heart of Charles Airport. They also found they could see the head. Nowadays it acts as an extra line of security from Portsmouth, and it's also where they train the future radar operators and power enforcement. Now just down and to the left is a big grey shed, Portsmouth Shipyard. To the left of that, the outer battlement walls of Porchester Castle, put here in the year 285 AD by the Romans, enlarged by the Saxons and the Normans. Nowadays it's been restored to its former glory, and you can explore it as part of English heritage. Now, if you look at the entrance of Fareham Creek there, you'll see 2 older warships, that's the former RFA Gold Rover and Black Rover. Now decommissioned, their role was fleet tankers. They travel the oceans of the world, acting as petrol stations for our Royal Navy. The front one, Gold Rover, has been decommissioned after 43 years of service. In that 43 years, she carried out over 8,000 replenishments at sea and pumped over 1.2 billion litres of fuel. Now decommissioned, sat in Rotten Row waiting for their fate to be decided. But will more than likely be cut up for scrap due to their age. Now if you look at this weird looking pier structure on the right hand side with the 2 grey cranes on it, that in fact is the UHAF, it stands for the Upper Harbour Ammunitioning Facility. Here that all the warships come to have the ammunition put on or taken off before and after deployment. Done in the middle of the harbour as opposed to alongside a quay wall, said for safety reasons. If someone were to drop something out there, say a warhead, it wouldn't take the whole of Portsmouth with it. Yeah, I mean, if you
Smart
come to
idea.
a place at the top of the harbour called Beddenham, you should be able to see the 2 white cranes up there. That's home to miles of underground concrete bunkers surrounded by trees and bushes. It used to come from a place dead ahead of us called Pretty Tard. Pretty Tard was the largest ammo dump in Europe. It had been there over 200 years. In fact, it was so large it even had to be linked up by its own rail network. However, civilian housing grew in too close and it was deemed an accident waiting to happen. So that's when they built the site up at Beddenham. And back on the left, you get some good views of HMS Queen Elizabeth.
Hang on. I keep looking.
Waterline. She has a draft of 11 metres, so 11 metres below the waterline. This boat you're on now currently has about 2 metres below the waterline. Now that sounds fine, however the harbour wasn't that deep before she got here. The harbour was only 9 metres deep, so it doesn't take a genius to work out that it wouldn't fit in. So they had to do what they call dredging. That's when they bring a big digger and suction barges where they suck all the mud off the seabed and they make it deeper. Now in fact they dredged more than 3.2 million cubic metres of mud. That's equivalent to 12,800 Olympic-sized swimming pools. During that time they picked out more than 20,000 items, including 8 cannons, an aircraft engine and a human skull. They also picked up 5 unexploded bombs. These were taken out into the Solent and they carried out a controlled explosion. Now as it is the biggest ship, now when they come through the harbour entrance, they only had a clearance of 15 metres either side. That might sound quite a lot, but on a ship that's 280 metres long, 15 metres is not very much. So although it was his first time bringing the real ship in today, the captain's actually practiced this hundreds of times on a simulator at HMS Collingwood. He practiced it in all different weather and tidal conditions. Now the approach channel, that's the bit outside the harbour, extends a mile out to sea. That's actually been widened. It was 210 metres, but now it's more than doubled to 450 metres. And the channel has been straightened up so they can avoid going around tight corners. Now to go from full ahead, that's as fast as it goes forward, to full astern, that's as fast as it can go backwards. Now that takes a distance of 2 nautical miles. Now the foghorn is 162 decibels, which means it can be heard more than 2 miles away. Now she's powered through the water by twin propellers, 2 propellers. They give the ship a speed of about 25 knots. We're doing about 7 knots. That will mean she can get from Dover to Calais in just 1 hour. 1 hour from Dover to Calais. Now those propellers that I was talking about, each one of those is 33 tonnes each. Now this boat that you're on now weighs about 70 tonnes. So the propellers on that ship weigh the same as the boat you're currently sat on.
Crazy.
Now she has 17 decks. The top one could fit 4 jumbo jets on the top. They used over 250,000 litres of paint to apply 7 coats over an area the size of Hyde Park.
In London. Stop it.
Now the carriers normally aren't that well armed because they have an escort fleet with them. They call it a carrier strike group. So she has minimal weapons on board. She have 3 Vulcan phalanx guns, that's the radar controlled Gatling gun that I talked about. She'll also have 4 30mm machine guns. However, that is all the armaments on board other than the small arms that the crew would carry. That's because she'll be defended by destroyers and frigates. If you look over the right hand side now, or the starboard side, you'll be able to see a small island with trees and bushes on it. That's Burrow Island, as a gruesome local nickname of being Rat Island. That's because when we had those prisoners of war dug out of the harbour, they were moored at night time on prison hulk ships, roughly in the position of those. They didn't receive much food or medical attention. It wasn't uncommon for 1 or 2 of them to pass away during the night. When this happened, they'd be put on small rowing boats and dumped onto that island. No marker or grave, it soon became infested with large black rats feasting on the rotting corpses. The locals, well, they were terrified. They feared the return of the plague, and they commissioned the Navy to clean up the island. The only thing the Navy knew what to do back then was to introduce some large feral cats, with the hope of chasing away the rats. However, those cats, well, they were never seen again. And that's where the saying rats as fast as cats is thought to come from. Now, if you cast your mind back to the year 2000, of course the year of the millennium, remember every town and city in this country got a gift from the government. London got a big tent, which I think they call the O2 Arena. And Portsmouth, they of course got the Civic Tower, standing there at 170 metres or 560 feet tall. When it was built, it was the second tallest observation platform outside of London, and the largest glass door in Europe. Main time opened in 2000 for the year of the millennium. However, due to various delays and setbacks, it didn't actually open until 2005. Estimated build cost of £6 to £9 million, actual build cost of £36 million. All is not lost, however. On the grand day of opening, the Lord Mayor of Portsmouth decided that he would take a trip up the tower in a glass scenic elevator located on one of the outside legs. He got about 2/3 of the way up and got stuck. Practically stuck there for nearly 2.5 hours, leaving to be winched down by the local fire brigade. That lift, well, it was never used again and has since been removed at a further cost of £2 million.
Yeah, it's funny on camera.
Now you notice the tower is painted in the colours of Emirates.
Yep.
That's because Emirates have entered into a multi-million-pound sponsorship deal with Portsmouth City Council. Part of this deal, they can paint the tower in their chosen colours. Of course, Emirates colours are red and white, so off they went and bought 27,000 litres of red paint. It doesn't take a genius to work out that that's not red. That's because the locals, well, they kicked up a right fuss. That's because that's the colours of Southampton Football Club. They demanded they change the plans immediately. So now it's painted blue and gold, and somewhere is 27,000 litres of red paint.
Somewhere. Yeah, probably within it. Stupid people. Can you still see it? No. Where's it? Hello?
Yeah, they're very
Chin it?
close together, aren't they? So,
One way.
Zoom.
Zoom. On. Where? Oh, where are you? Me. Oh, I can't still get that first head. Oh. I'm trying to concentrate on the Chinook.
If you look on the right hand side here, you should be able to see the town of Gosport, wonderful town of Gosport. Save you a 45-minute or 15-mile road journey via ferry. Their motto is, it's shorter by water. The ferry on the Portsmouth side of the harbour that's just pulling away from the other side of the harbour, that's the harbour spirit. It's the newest Gosport freight fleet, launched about 2 years ago now in Croatia. And it's nice to know it's designed to be our bottom. This is starting to go along. The harbour entrance here is very narrow, very shallow, made it very easy to defend. In fact, Henry VIII once fired a chain from one side to the other to stop enemy ships coming in. You can also see some of our sea defence force there. It's a bit back on romance. They were more on a full overtreat. Many millions of pounds was turned into ocean hotel. You can spend the night at either of those two ports, setting you back around £400 per room. Here you can see a bit of old Portsmouth. This is Spice Island. Spice Island is where Sir Walter Raleigh landed the first spice, tobacco and silk trade ships. They came back from the Americas in the late 1800s. There's still in Western the Spice Island Inn, some of the oldest pubs there. Spice Island Inn, in fact, said to be the oldest pub in Portsmouth. So old that that's where they reckon Nelson had his last drink before he went off on the Battle of Trafalgar. Much of that pub is in its original state and is said to be very haunted. In fact, spirits are often seen behind the bar. You can also see the grey building with the Union Jack on it. As Land Rover BAR, Ben Ainsley Racing and our America's Cup team. They've just returned from Bermuda and I'm afraid the result wasn't that good. In fact, they were knocked out pretty early on. So I think that's been turned into a carpet warehouse. Now we're just pulling into Gunwharf Quays, which unfortunately does mark the harbour tour, the end of the harbour tour today. Now that you are leaving us here, we'd like to thank you for coming with us. We really hope you've enjoyed our harbour tour. If you have, and if you wish, gratuities can be left in a bucket as you depart the vessel, but of course that is optional. We'd like to thank you very much for coming with us. Just remain exactly where you are while we get the vessel secured alongside and the gangway into position. Once it's safe to do so, we will let you depart the vessel. On behalf of all the crew on board, I'd like to thank you for coming with us. Hope you've enjoyed our tour. Hope you're going to enjoy the rest of your time here in Portsmouth. Before we come alongside, however, would you like to hear my word of the day? Yeah. Word of the day today is onion. Why onions, you might ask? Because that's shallot.
Oh, and by the way,
thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave comments below and subscribe to the channel for future episodes. In fact, you have to subscribe.
resistance is